During a trip through time, the Legends were forced to land the Waverider in Blue Valley, Nebraska, where they discovered a young superhero.
Yes!
About to take flight.
That's cool.
Who are you?
I'm Stargirl.
Hello, Legendaires. Welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We are covering the first season of Stargirl, and we are on episode 9, Brainwave. I am the trembling... Wait, who's that? Ah! Get out of my head!
And, what's going on? Oh, my head. Where did this headache come from?
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, and the Maid of Mischief, Harley Quinn.
Oh, man. Where did that come from? It came out of nowhere, Harley.
I don't know. This is like literally the worst headache I've ever had. Make it go away.
Oh, it's excruciating. I think we're maybe getting a little bit too close to finding more out about Brainwave.
I think so too. Is this worse than the last time I hit you over the head with my hammer?
I think so, because this felt, that was external, and it just had me ringing on the inside. This was internal, and I can't even describe it. It's not ringing. It's
a big
pounding.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody to our awesome show about Brainwave. I think just looking at the feedback ahead and what our ratings are, I think everyone was quite on board with this one.
It was a good one, I must say. I did quite enjoy it.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. What was your rating?
I gave this one 8.5 monsters. They're all just monsters. It's like they're in my head. just kidding. Not really. Anyways, I want to say kudos to the actor that plays Henry Jr. His name is Jake Austin Walker, and I think he's just doing a fantastic job with this character. And I kind of think he really got to shine a little bit in this episode. It was mostly about him and about Brainwave and just kind of his journey. And so I really enjoyed what he did with the character. I thought he was pretty good. I think I'm still a little bit on the fence with him completely being a villain. I definitely think his dad's going to be convincing towards him, right? Like he's going to be maybe like more loving. Definitely put that in quotation marks. Now that his son like has the same powers, but I'd be surprised if like once he learns the ISA's ultimate mission, like he's kind of not completely on board with that. So I think deep down he might be a good guy, and I'm kind of hoping he finds the courage to like tell Yolanda like what really happened, because we saw what really happened with Cindy and all of that. So I'm hoping that he ends up being able to tell her and maybe make amends with the JSA. I don't know. He might be team villain right now, but I could still see him as a member of the new JSA. I don't know. I'm undecided on where he stands.
That sounds like a huge discussion to have during our talking points for sure.
It does,
which way he's going to lean. Yeah.
And we will definitely get more into this. It was just, I really liked this whole storyline in this episode. It was very, very good. So What did you think about it?
I'm also giving it an 8.5 headaches from hell. And again, with the deep development of characters, this time young Brainwave as he continues to gain a grasp on what's happening to him. I love that they are taking their time with some of the characters, giving us a few origin stories that are happening in real time and not flashbacks. I mean, Stargirl just keeps on proving itself to be the best DC CW has to offer to date, and it's pulling away from the other shows in smart writing, great casting, great performances, and barely a thing to complain about.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. So I hope season 2 is able to keep this standard. I know we're all a little nervous that it's going to the CW, but I'm hoping the creative remains the same and maybe potentially a little bit of the budget dollars. I don't know. One can hope. Hopefully we'll get some more news on that as the time gets closer to them, like actually starting production and filming and all of that.
Yes. Wholeheartedly agree.
Okay. Shall we?
Yeah, let's jump in. Talking points. This episode, I think we got lots to say this episode, at least on some parts.
I've got a lot to say, for sure. First of all, the flashbacks returned.
After I just talked about we're not getting flashbacks, but this is a positive. It's okay.
I know, but it was good. It was good. So we flash back to, quote, decades ago. I like how they're attempting to not date Brainwave, even though they kind of already have. But anyways, so I enjoyed that we get to see his origin story. I love a good origin story. You know, I love a good one. And so this flashback to his first use of his powers, and apparently this all had to do with there's this guy trying to mug him, and as a result, he ends up like lashing out. We see him having these migraines, the same ones that Henry's having. And then some guy tries to mug him and wants to kill him, and he lashes out and kills him instead. Shocker. That was his manifestation? I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, like I was saying, to add to my opening statement, we're also getting history for the older characters on the show as the young ones are maturing. And I also think that's great because what it's doing is really building a depth that is unprecedented on these DC shows. And I'm so impressed with Stargirl right now on how they're forming these. We're getting a mix of, like I said, right here in real time development of our young characters as their origins are happening right before our eyes. And we're also going to go back in time to see how the parents, how the JSA and the ISA, got their powers as well, how they came to be who they are. And it's fantastic. There has not been a DC hero show with this much depth yet, and they've just sunk it in, and it's so good.
It is. It's really, really good. And even in like these opening flashbacks, we get a lot of information about Henry Sr. So
Yes.
the first bit is that we learn he actually experimented on himself, and that's how he got his powers. So the question immediately that comes to mind for me is it now genetic because he experimented on himself, or did he also experiment on Henry when Henry was like very young, like so young that maybe he wouldn't remember? Where do you kind of fall on genetic versus experimentation for Henry Jr.?
Yeah, well, like, first of all, he's an adult already before he got his powers. And it's not from being a metahuman or anything like that. He, like you said, he experimented on himself to get the powers. And the way he described it, he basically says he did things to unlock the full power of his brain, which kind of answers that old theory that we've all heard about and talked about, that we only use 10% of our brains while we're awake and conscious. So it's cool that he figured out how to gain more use of the areas of our brain we're not using. And I think it's neat that they're toying on that idea. And for all we know, it could very well happen, because think of a human in this world that has unlocked more percentage of their brain than anyone else. It doesn't exist that we know of, unless it's some secret government experiment. But, as for, did he also do the same to his son? And I'm wondering about that, because if he unlocked his brain, that is now part of his genetic code. His brain is now open and processing and doing things almost like a sped up evolution. Yeah. So did that genetic code now get passed on to Henry Jr.? Did he experiment, or is the genetic code passed on? I don't have a guess yet. Those are the two ways we could go. And I think it would be cool if it's just the genetic code being passed on because he managed to open up more of his brain, and that's, just part of it. Because we don't know if he had Henry Jr. at the time he was performing all his experiments.
I don't think that he did. I got the impression that he was very young.
Yeah, and single, because he wasn't very confident and was the nerdy picked on science guy. I think once he gained his confidence and stuff, then he probably, found a lady, got married, and had Henry Jr. So I'm going to lean towards it being genetically passed on right now.
That's where I'm leaning as well, mostly because we already have an inkling of child experimentation with Cindy, and I just don't want that to be a trend because I find that disturbing on many levels. But yeah.
Every show does it, right? Look at The Flash. Everybody got their powers because of the whatchamacallit, the explosion of...
the antimatter or whatever.
An antimatter machine. And then on Black Lightning, everybody got their powers from that drug, the green or whatever it was called.
Vertigo?
No, it was just, I think it was just named a color. The green. I don't know.
I didn't watch Black Lightning.
So everybody got their powers from this one drug. And, Supergirl, everyone gets their powers because they're aliens. So it's like, come on, let's not. If Stargirl falls on that type of storytelling, then we're going to be like, same old, same old. So I'm hoping, like you just said, that it's going to be a good mix that, some is genetic, some is born into, some is experimenting.
Yeah.
Some is gadgets.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping he's genetic, and I definitely think Cameron, like the hint that we got a couple episodes ago, will make his, if he has powers, that would make his genetic as well. So,
and he most likely will, because the little bit of history I looked in the comic books, that Icicle does have a kid, and his kid is the one who becomes the more powerful villain or character. I don't remember which side he's. I think he ended up being a villain, but we'll see.
No, I don't want Cameron to be a villain. I'm very anti that happening. Anyways, okay, let's keep focused. All right, so in this flashback, there's tapes. So these tapes, I was right, they did say day one, etc. But the tapes are documenting the evolution of his powers. So I guess they could, in a way, be training tapes. I don't know if he kept them as a way to just document his own powers, if he kept them with the intention of once Henry's powers came to be that he would give them to him and show them to him. I don't really know. But either way, it's pretty fascinating. So I enjoyed us getting to go through the tapes like day by day by day and see some of the key points as he evolves from, just himself to Brainwave.
Yeah, well, last week we were guessing. You were saying, it must be tapes of Henry. He's watching Henry's progress. And I said, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And then I'd guess that maybe it's all the information of what Cindy's given him or what Dragon King is tracking. We have no idea, but it was none of that. It was tapes of him. He's basically logging his own evolution, like their personal logs of how he's developing. Yep. And it's great because exactly like a true scientist would do, they record everything for the data to be able to come back to it later and study it. So it's perfect for his story. He's just logging everything.
Yep. Yeah, no, it made total sense. Yeah. I feel like that's what I was leaning towards, is that he was documenting stuff for himself, whether to show to Henry to use as training or whether just to have it because, he's a scientist at heart and that is what scientists do. Record, document. You got to have a way to prove your hypothesis. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Super interesting.
I think we'll come back around to that again in a little bit too.
We will, but one more point before I moved on. This is combining a few of the flashbacks, but we do learn that his father was very abusive towards him because we have this story from his childhood about his father like dangling him over a well or something, which honestly for a minute almost had me feeling bad for him. Almost. And then he just kind of like goes on to talk about how terrible people are. And, he can only see the worst in people and blah, 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 which I don't necessarily disagree with him to like a certain point. Like people can be pretty awful, but there's also a lot of good in people. So you kind of have to maybe dig a little deeper, as Courtney will later suggest to Henry Jr. So.
Yeah, but that's a very common backstory for troubled people in society. There's, even in real life, there's many verified cases of serial killers, rapists, the worst people of the worst that come from abusive homes. And it's a fact that most people don't want to accept. They just think these people are mean, they're evil, that's just the way they are. No, it's the cause and consequence of the abuse. People just don't turn out like that from nothing because people inherently, the human race inherently wants to be good. They want to, we're all about being loving, being caring, and wanting to be together. So when there's abuse like that, this is what changes people. It can screw up a person's mind, whether it's physical abuse or mental abuse. It can mess people's brains up in a way, chemically and alter things and screw them up. And a perfect example, I want to point you guys to a podcast that my friend hosts. It's called Weird, a podcast of curiosities. And she's going to school right now to become a psychiatrist, become a shrink basically. And she's studying all these cases in history as part of her schooling. And it's so amazing to listen to. She breaks down some of the worst serial killers in history, and she digs into their past and what kind of childhood they had, and she's able to explain how they came to be that wickedly vile person that went on a killing rampage and killed 16 people. Well, look at what his dad did to him. And, and look, like his mom repeatedly hit him over the head with a baseball bat, and, that's how she punished him or whatever. Or there was one kid that he was called the Night Stalker, and he had a really bad bike accident or something, cracked his head off the curb or something like that. And he was like the kindest, loving, most gentle kid. And after that accident, he was completely messed up, and he never got the care that he needed. He never got the treatment he needed. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And when he was like 20 or 21, he went on this weird, they called him the Night Stalker, because during the night, he would just let himself into people's houses, have their way with them, kill them, move on. And he went from city to city to city. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, because it's down in the States. Anyway, I'm way off on a tangent. Fascinating story, but it all stemmed from a bad head injury. People do not just become serial killers because this is what ties it all the way back to our villains here. Like, why, if Brainwave comes from an abusive past, of course he's going to be abusive even in life, because he's constantly picked on and he's mistreated by everybody around him. I mean, you get that constantly. There's the select few that's going to turn, and watch out, because if they are smart like he is and figures these kind of things out, I mean, yes, it's a comic book show, but in real life, they can do a lot. But they could just grab a gun and go on a shooting spree at Walmart, right? Like, you don't know. They just snap.
Yeah, and I think this leads a lot to like where we saw in the beginning of the series, where Henry's more of a bully. And that's the thing, is like bullies are typically that way because that's how they're treated. They're picked on themselves, or their parents are more abusive towards them, and so they lash out, and they're either trying to cover up a truth about themselves, or they're trying to gain some sort of control, or like kind of lash back out, if you will. And so that kind of makes sense, because we saw that his dad wasn't the greatest. That's why, like, I was kind of talking about his dad being more, quote, loving, now that Henry is officially have like the same powers and all of that. So it'd be interesting to see how and if their relationship like actually changes. So I don't know, but yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Like, a lot of times people are mostly just a product of their environment. So yeah, if you are from an abusive environment, it does a lot of damage.
Listen up, parents. It all comes down to parenting. You want your kid to turn out right? Be a good parent.
Don't be a dick. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about Pat and Courtney for a hot minute here, because we have a very interesting scene that I think takes up all of 5 minutes of screen time, but has a whole heck of a lot to it. So first thing they do is they're in the basement, and they're kind of discussing the ISA's potential plan, right? They're trying to figure out what it is they're doing and why they're in Blue Valley.
Yeah. I think Courtney's idea that she had for Henry wasn't actually that bad, to use him to read the minds of everyone and try to figure out who's part of the ISA. I thought that's actually not a bad idea, Courtney. I thought she did all right with that.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was a bad idea. I mean, I think her head was in the right place, and she wasn't wrong. I mean, she got inside Henry's head, and she saw that, he's conflicted. He's lonely. He's hurting, and he is, because his dad is the way that he is and his mom is gone. We clearly haven't learned exactly why she is gone yet, but I have a feeling that we will learn that throughout the series. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad plan. I thought it was solid. It had potential for merit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I wanted to save that for those scenes for a little bit later.
Yeah, that's just the start of it. I mean, I thought this is just her talking to Pat, trying to figure things out, and she was trying to, get him to agree to, let's just use Henry. He's a good guy. I know. I can get him to be on our side. And Pat wasn't quite agreeing to it yet.
Yeah, Pat wasn't super into it. Yeah, and as we later find out, no one is super into it. But anyways, the other thing about this scene is that Pat sort of has started to figure out that the ISA has all these plans in Blue Valley. There's more to them that meets the eye, and he's starting to see, hey, I think a bunch of them really are here.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, Pat's not slow. He sees the connections. He's starting to figure it out. He's not that slow. I think that's where his usefulness is really going to become key here for this young team, because he can see things that they're being so naive aren't able to see.
And he's more the detective for sure.
Yeah, which is maybe what he did for the JSA too. I mean, we don't know fully if that's exactly what he did.
Probably did more research. I mean, he was the sidekick, so he probably did a lot more of the research than the others had to. And he was also older than most of them. So, he probably had a more level head on his shoulders, I like to think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think so.
He also tells us that Dr. Ito experimented on himself and, quote, probably can't be killed. What? I mean, I think we'd figured that out, but I mean, what?
Well, I mean, he experimented on himself to evolve, and that to me is crazy because it's
insane.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking, okay, he evolved because one theory of evolution is that we come from lizards and reptiles. That the lizards and reptiles came from fish. They crawled out onto the land and then eventually helped begin life on land. Mm-hmm. And, so originally we come from lizards and reptiles. So I look at Dragon King, and he's obviously got some type of dragon scales or lizard scales on his face. So I just thought it was kind of funny. Maybe he's going back to his roots,
Oh my gosh. Yes. I've had the exact same thought. I was like, lizards can regenerate. Lizards have longer lifespans. I was totally with you on that. Yeah. I'm totally with you right there.
Yeah. I mean, and if you really want to go far out reaching, if you believe in these theories about aliens visiting us and stuff. Yeah, there's a theory that there's an alien race that looks like lizards that are visiting us already. I mean, V played on that huge, lizards that were underneath human skins, right? So that's a real life theory. Long before V ever came around, that's a theory that's one of the alien races that's visiting us. So, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Have you ever watched the show People of Earth?
No.
You need to watch it. It's hilarious.
Okay.
It's about the alien races. That's all I need to say.
I love it.
Dude, you need to watch it. It's fantastic. Loved it.
People of Earth. Where do you find it?
I have no idea. It got canceled before its time.
Okay.
So good though. So good. All right. Sorry. All tangents aside about reptiles and aliens. We got in 30 seconds, a pretty crazy comic drop. So I want to break this down and go through the 7 Soldiers of Victory. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Fill us in.
All right. So we get a picture, and Pat's, walking us through who some of these people are. Front and center in this picture has to be, I think, the Shining Knight, a.k.a. Justin the Janitor. He's right there in the photo. You can see the sword. He's got the knight get up. It's got to be him, right?
You would think so. Of course, it's a younger version of himself. It's just hard to see because he's disguised in his old beard, and he's obviously not as big and muscular anymore, but it's got to be him, because who else is it going to be? That's the Shining Knight, and we now know that's who the janitor is, so yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I did a deep dive into the comics, trying to figure out who all was in this picture, because Pat only names a few. So, the 7 Soldiers of Victory, found out they're also known as the Laws Legionnaires, and they're a superhero team which fought during World War II as part of the All-Star Squadron. Their adventures originally took place during the Golden Age on Earth 2. So that's another tie-in, and that is why Earth Girl is definitely set on Earth 2, aside from the fact that they showed that to
Earth
us.
Girl? You mean Stargirl?
Stargirl, yeah, set on Earth 2.
Yeah.
So the rest of the people in this photo are the Vigilante, the Crimson Avenger, Green Arrow, Speedy, the Shining Knight, the Star-Spangled Kid, and Stripesy. Now, that's only the 7. Those are the original 7 that founded the Seven Soldiers of Victory. Now there is an eighth that they mention because Pat has this like funny quip about, oh yeah, we debated, because Courtney's like, there's 8 people in this picture. So the 8th person was Wing, and he's the one shown on the show. And so I did a little bit of digging on him and found out that Wing is actually the honorary 8th soldier of the Seven Soldiers of Victory. He was the sidekick for the Crimson Avenger, who was an original founding member.
Okay.
And Wing basically was like his chauffeur. And then, you know, when the Crimson Avenger kind of like evolves, he ends up getting a matching costume and kind of becomes his official sidekick. So I thought that was a cool tie-in. I was like, okay, this has to be a pull from the comics. And so I want to know what it is. So that's all what it was about.
Yeah. Cool. And we can also thank Jeff Gentry too, because he posted on our Facebook page a picture, and he sent it to us that it was the exact same picture we saw on screen there, and he labeled all of them, who everybody was too. So I laugh at their costumes. I mean, that back then, comic books, it looks like really bad cosplay. They're awful. Oh, man.
It does. I agree. It looks like a cosplay that I would put together for my 4-year-old. So
Yeah. It's so bad. I mean, it was as bad as 1960s Batman, maybe even worse than that. So, yeah.
I would say worse than 1960s.
So funny.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So the next note that I have is about specifically the scene with Justin the janitor, our shining knight. Mm-hmm. He is holding his mop, and I think he's very clearly remembering the cosmic staff. It was pretty cool to see and a little confusing, but I've got to think there's some sort of amnesia coming into play or some other mental issue. I think you had talked about this in a previous show, but I think seeing Stargirl and seeing the cosmic staff is like starting to jar his memory, like something's starting to click. Like he's got the sword and like he's clearly got like some sort of muscle memory, but I don't think he fully like knows or remembers who he is.
Yeah. I was confused what was going on there. I was going, what the heck's going on with his mop? That's not the staff in disguise. Is that a new trick we didn't know the staff could do? It can like change its shape. I had no idea, but I totally told you. I knew he had some type of memory loss or something was going on there.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah, I think he was holding the mop and like in his head he was remembering like the cosmic staff because he's even making the sound effects. You know what I mean, for the cosmic staff. So he's clearly seen that before.
Yes.
Clearly.
Yep.
All right. So more to come from him. All right. So I've got just like a couple of quick notes before we get into some of the meatier stuff. So what's going on with Cindy? This was totally weird, but we learned that she's been withdrawn, again in quotes, from her school to study overseas. But really, her dad is just keeping her captive in his dungeon, which is crazy.
She's in prison.
Yeah.
Now, I was actually kind of cheering and chuckling at that because that's totally the proper punishment for spoiled brats like her. Like, way to go, Daddy King. I loved it. Because, man, she is ultra spoiled. And, I mean, you listen to her when she was in there, she actually threatens to kill him like she did her mom. Wow. That's crazy. So there's a nasty side to her that she's even willing to threaten her dad. And it makes me wonder, what did she do to her mom? Are we ever going to see that in a flashback?
I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to see it or if it's just going to be this thing that she keeps alluding to or he keeps alluding to. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I don't know, she tries to, like, be like, oh, Daddy, like, please, like, I'm your daughter, like, let me out. And then she, like, flips a switch and she's like, I'm going to kill you the same way I killed Mom. And I was just like, whoa. This is crazy. I mean, clearly, obviously, she's also a product of her environment in a very abusive family. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get to see that or if it's just going to be this thing always hanging over us. So we'll just have to see.
I don't know. But one of the things that I like the most is it's one of the funnier scenes. I almost picked this one just because is when he decides to gas her. She needs a nap. This always helped her when she was a child. And he just gasses her.
Oh, God.
Loved it.
It was very funny, but also very, very telling. It's it's no surprise she's the way that she is. None.
Oh, man. Father of the year right there, I say.
Oh, God. Wow. He's terrible. He's way worse than Brainwave.
I love it.
I don't know. I don't even know what to think about that.
I'm title of kids these days, the self-entitled, everything's made easy for them. And that's exactly, she's like the queen of that. So hell yeah, punish them. I'm all for it.
Oh, man.
Let's get some respect back in the youth of the world.
Oh, God. That might take a little bit more than just all of that, but anyway, so let's move on to this ISA meeting. So This is kind of the next point that I have. Dr. Ito takes a seat at the table, and what I noticed and found very interesting is that the entire ISA seems very wary of him, if you will. I think they've had some issues in the past, it sounds like, but he keeps reaffirming that he's an ally to the ISA. So I think he's definitely kind of been working on his own, and only recently have they all kind of come together in this joint brainwashing activity.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if they're wary of him because he's just outlived all of them. He's decades older than everybody. He's been around a lot longer, and maybe he just knows too much about all of them because he's obviously watches everything. So maybe that's why they're a little bit wary of him. He knows too much.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but they've clearly had some run-ins with him in the past. So there's something more to that story. I don't know if we'll get it, but it is very interesting.
It is.
But your theory was completely confirmed if we had any doubts, which I don't think we did. But Project New America is definitely a brainwashing experiment. And what they're basically going to be able to do is take control of every person within the 6 states around Nebraska. Like, that's how far this satellite can reach. And they're going to broadcast Brainwave's powers, one of their powers, either junior or senior, who knows, to try and take over all these people. That's insane.
Yeah, they want to use Henry Jr. right now. That's the new switch in the plan to power the machine. So, yes, that is crazy. If they can pull that off and get everybody under their control, I mean, you've got a country of zombies, basically, like mentally just willing to do whatever you say. That's a scary prospect. And what a great villain team agenda to have. Instead of let's blow up a city, let's threaten New York with a nuclear missile, heck no, let's just mentally control them all, and then they all work for us.
Just take it over. Why not?
It's a nice different take on a bad guy team's plan, for sure.
It is. Yeah. It's good writing. It's a good show. I'm really enjoying it. Really am. So, Mr. Icicle, Mr. Jordan here. Is it just me, or does he seem to be having second thoughts about his project?
Well, I'm curious why you think that. What's giving you that idea?
The entire conversation with Barbara. He said that he seemed very unsettled. He was like, you think you would feel good? I just wrapped up a project. We're just getting everything going. And I just don't feel as good as I thought he would. That's obviously not even anywhere near the exact words that he uses, but that's kind of what he was getting at. Did you pick up on that in that initial scene before she invites him to dinner?
Yeah,
believe me, we're going to get into.
I don't know. I don't know if he's second thoughts about the project. I think maybe leaning back to what you just said about them being wary of Dr. Ito. I think if he's having second thoughts about the people he's working with to make this happen, because he's had to kill a couple of his team members already. Yeah. And I think he's just using Barbara as a shoulder like an ear to bounce ideas off of. He's starting to confide in her and express, his feelings, what's going on. Because I think he feels that she's going to kind of be there for him and she's a good ear to listen. That's kind of the feeling I got. He's just using her as somebody to open up to a little bit.
He's definitely opening up. That is for sure. Oh, more on that later.
Now, we get a scene here with Henry. It's this whole collage of Henry studying his dad's tapes.
Yes.
to help him understand what's happening to him. And it's helping him learn control, but it's also developing a new connection and fondness for his dad, which I think is great because they obviously had a very shaky relationship. And I don't think he felt this way about his dad, but with the ability to watch all these tapes of him, he now understands what his dad went through and why he is the way he is. And I think, like I said, it's opening up a little bit more of a fondness for his father because there's some understanding there now. And it could be setting him up to be a bad guy in the end. And I swung back and forth so many times in this episode. He's going to be bad. No, he's going to be good. Courtney's winning him over. No, he's going to be bad because he wants to. I still ultimately am landing that he's going to end up being a bad guy in the end because of this connection to his dad. I don't know. We'll have to see. But the other feeling that I'm getting here that it looked like just from watching the tapes and what his dad was saying that it seems like in order to relieve the headaches, they have to kill someone. Because that was the message they were trying to send to us. It's like, I got this headache, and then they kill someone. Oh, I feel so much better. And they did that a couple times in the tapes. And now Henry seems to maybe have picked up on that. So I don't know. Is that true? Could that be an actual fact that the headaches only dissipate when they use their power to hurt somebody? I'm not sure what they're trying to tell us there.
I'm not sure either. I definitely think that Brainwave Senior kind of came to that conclusion through his experimentation. But I think what's happening is like the negative thoughts, like he's only focusing, I feel like he's only focusing on the negative things. And so as those thoughts kind of consume and overpower him, he lashes out with like the same anger and the same negativity, which is, I think, what probably ends up killing these people. Like, does that kind of make sense? And so I think if they were to, as Courtney suggests, maybe dig a little deeper and find the good in people and not just focus on the surface, like negativity or like, you know, the quote unquote, like gossip, if you will, that maybe there could be a different way to alleviate that like pressure or that headache. I mean, I definitely think it's an overload. It's overstimulation because of all of the different thoughts and all of the different things. And it may just be from like early on, you know, before he learns to control the power and before he learns how to even, I think to a certain extent, he can now block out what people are hearing. He doesn't have to always be listening. Brainwave Senior is who I'm talking about. And so I think as he evolves and as he like hones in on his powers, like I think if we were to watch day 7,032 or, you know, like however many days it's been, that I think it would be a very different tape from, you know, day 45 or the one that we saw where he's just lashing out and just killing people basically to make himself feel better because he's like convinced himself that they're bad people. You know what I mean?
Well, it could be that he needs to use his powers. That's what's causing the headache.
Exactly.
It's like building up in him. So maybe he just needs to use his powers. He doesn't have to kill somebody, but he just has to use it.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's a buildup of whatever energy particles are going on in his brain. So yeah, that could definitely be a.
Yeah.
It's just they were just leaning us towards like, oh, he's got to kill to relieve the headaches. Like, okay, yikes, that could be scary.
They definitely were leading us there, and I think they were leading us there to establish him as a villain. But I mean, even we see early on, like Henry has these crazy headaches, but if he's able to use his powers to, say, control a pill or move a key across the room, he feels better. So I think it's just using the powers and figuring out how to hone the ability and get to use it so that it doesn't hurt him as much.
Yeah. I guess we'll learn more as things start to happen, or maybe if he sees more tapes, I'm not sure. But from going from this sequence I was talking about, he does throughout it all. He actually hears his dad. They actually speak to each other through their minds, and he's not even at the hospital when this happens. And so, with his powers kind of raging, he somehow breaks through to his dad because his dad's like, Henry, what's going on? Is that you? And I think because his dad being trapped in the coma doesn't really know what's going on, but yet his son is reaching out to him. So I think that kind of started the process of him waking up, which we'll get to eventually. But I think that started the process of him coming around. And I just thought it was neat. Like while Henry Jr. is, going through this struggle, it's strong enough to reach his dad, which we speculated a couple episodes ago. Will Henry be the one to wake him up? And
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think that's a bit of what's going on for sure. And I mean, before he wakes up, we get a bit more, between Henry. We get a couple of different scenes. So the first one we get is when he kind of confronts Courtney. Like Courtney goes to the hospital to try and talk to him and recruit him. But then, because he can read her mind and she's a complete open book, he knows everything that's happened, her attempt completely backfires because he reads her mind and figures out that she's the one who put his dad in the coma in the first place. I mean, he already knows she's Stargirl because he can hear her, in last week's episode in the battle. And so now, she doesn't even try to like guard her thoughts, doesn't even try to think about like anything else. Like he just reads her mind and now he knows everything. I was like, I was wondering how long it would take to put that out in the open between them. And like, they didn't even try and hide it. Like, I mean, he reads her mind first thing and figures it out. So that was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah. And again, the direction changes with Henry. I mean, it's so gripping and totally giving us no for sure indication which way he's going to go. He seems to want to be good as he listens to her, but then he hears her thoughts along with the thoughts of other people in the hospital, and he starts to swing to the bad side. And it was so back and forth with him. Like she starts to get through to him, and then he hears something, and she loses it. And that's because he's only listening to the fears of the people around him and what the thoughts are on the surface. He's not allowing himself to dig deeper, which is what she kind of gets into.
Yep.
And and with Courtney there, I thought when this whole conversation in the hospital room started, she was so dumb, and I was like, "Oh my God, girl, put a foot in it because you're losing it." Like I just facepalmed how dumb it was, how stupid she was. But she quickly turns it around and actually does really well trying to help Henry see the right side of things, which should make him think about the things if he can remember what she said to him.
Right.
It should help him think, and he's going to have this battle going on internally, which side he should side with, because yes, she attacked his dad, but his dad did bad things to her. Like he's got a lot to think about, and a lot to process. But yeah, it was such a great scene. I know we're going to get into it a little bit more. I just liked that we saw the switch from him back and forth, good and evil. Which way is he going to go? And we saw the switch with Courtney starting off, sticking her foot in him. I was like, oh God, you're going to screw this up. And then she finds a way to reach through to him and does really well. And this was like a very good maturing moment for her too, because she's been pretty annoying actually for 8 episodes now with just blurting things out and not taking a step back and thinking about what she says before she says it. Here she finally gets it right and says the right things, and it works. She gets through to him. Yeah.
Well, we think. I think that's what
at times
to be seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because. Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I think she did get through to him, but I think it's going to take a little bit for him to come around. So.
Yeah, like I don't mean she won him over and he's going to go dress up with the good guys. I just mean every time she said something the right way, the anger from his face disappeared as he listened to her. And then when he heard other people's thoughts, then he got angry again. So she was getting to him at various points in the conversation. And so good job by her in the end, really.
Yeah, no, I agree, for sure. So the other scene that we get in the hospital here is Yolanda, a.k.a. Wildcat, confronts him.
Yeah.
I felt like this scene showed he was definitely conflicted. I felt like he was about to try and tell her the truth, that it wasn't him, that it was Cindy who ended up leaking the photos. And that I think he really did love her and care for her. And I think it was all Cindy that ended up destroying all of that.
So why doesn't he open up to her, though? Why doesn't he say, hey, I'm sorry. I actually had nothing to do with it. I should have come to your defense. I'm sorry. I should have helped you out there. He just let it happen. All he has to do is apologize to her and tell her the truth.
Well, yes, but she's also threatening to slash his throat at that particular moment. So.
I know, and this is the thing. Like she's against trying to befriend him and goes after him, and she was out for blood. And this part bugs me because, yes, he was part of what ruined her life, but is she that shallow herself to want to kill him without finding out the truth? This part kind of annoyed me. I think this was the most annoying part of this episode. Was her, because I think she's overreacting. I mean, why does he deserve to die? Killing him for what happened, I think that's a little bit too far. I think going after him to slash him wide open for having a part in her getting embarrassed at school, I think is too far. And I was a little bit annoyed with her reaction and how overboard she was with it. But, I mean, he wants to reach out to her. He wants to make amends. You could see it. And it puts him in such a tough spot. And that's what's so intriguing about his character, because he's in so many tough spots with different people. He has to make a decision.
Yes, I agree. And that's why I'm so on the fence about him, because I can totally see it both ways. And that's awesome. It's great writing. It's great acting. I'm very pleased all over the board. This was a very good episode. I think he did such a good job. Like I really loved the actor this episode. He was so good.
He looks so conflicted and so torn, so angry and so hurt. He went through a gamut of emotions, and it was, a good job by a young actor for sure.
Oh yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah. Now moving away a little bit, as we're just another scene, we see a bit of a ISA meeting here, and Dragon King walks up later to join the meeting. I just wanted to point this out because as he walks into the meeting and he's got two of his minions all dressed in red robes, did you notice the way the minions were walking?
Yeah.
They were all jerky like zombies and just creepy. The way their bodies were like, I can't even describe it in words. They just were very jolty and jerky in their movements. And it looked like zombies. And it was creepy as hell.
That's because that's probably what they are. He specifically asked for at least one person that we know that person's dead body.
Yeah.
So
who are all these people under the hoods?
Willing to bet zombies is like literally the most accurate way you could describe them, or perhaps like Frankenstein's monster. I think he's reanimating
sounds more
people.
like it. Yeah, exactly.
It's insane.
Creepy.
So creepy. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I noticed that and I was like, oh, whoa. Those are definitely dead people brought back to life.
And while we're on Dragon King, did you see somebody posted on her Facebook page a link to a little villains hangout session on a video chat? Did you watch that?
I did not get to watch it, the whole thing, but yes, I did see it. It's
entertaining. They have they have them all paired off with each other, and we get to see the actor who's playing Dragon King. So no, it's not the guy from Lost, but he looks like a pretty cool dude.
Still, that's very cool. Yeah, I need to watch it, but
it's fun.
I know. I saw that posted on several places. It's been all over our Twitter. It was on our Facebook group. Oh my gosh! Like I did not get a chance to watch it yet, but I will. I promise. All right. Well, while we're on the villains, there was one big part of this episode that we must talk about, and it was the dinner with the McKents.
All of them. Like Barbara invites them all over. You crazy woman.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was not expecting the parents to come. I was just expecting Jordan and Cameron.
Yeah, me too.
So I was a bit thrown off when the parents were also there. But whatever.
It was odd.
It was very odd. Speaking of odd, the Norwegian grace that they state, it starts off innocent enough and then ends with, so our enemies might suffer. What?
Oh, creepy. Like, holy. I mean, imagine sitting there at your own dinner table, listening to a language that you don't understand. You have no idea what they just said. And meanwhile, they're talking about slitting your throats, hoping you die. And you don't even know.
I know. Oh, God, that
Creepy.
was so weird. That was so weird. And Cameron's just like, yeah, don't look at me. I took French. I was like, okay, fair. I guess your dad's truly raising you to be like a good kid, so good on him. But man, that was weird.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of Jordan, he seemed very suspicious, like specifically of Pat this episode. And so I don't know if he has some sort of inkling like who he is, but he was kind of grilling Pat on like why they even moved to Blue Valley in the first place. Did you pick up on that?
Well, yeah, and that made me wonder, does Jordan know something? Does he recognize Pat? I don't know. And if he looks familiar to Jordan, then Jordan's asking, he's trying to find out why you came to Blue Valley. If he does recognize him, it still works. Why did you come to Blue Valley? Why are you here? Because, Jordan maybe only thinks of him as a useless sidekick. So he still wants to know, why did you come here? Because me and my team were pretty well hidden. What brought you here? I think he's trying to find out where information leaked and how people tracked them. I think that's what he was digging for. And on the other side of it, does Pat know who he is? Which it turns out no. At that point in time, I was like, does Pat recognize him? But no, because it wasn't until Courtney offers up the idea. And Pat's like, what? No way.
Yeah, and Pat doesn't even believe her. Here's the whole thing. She figures out that he's Icicle because she tries to grab something out of the oven that's way too hot for any normal human being to touch, sets it next to him on the table, and he just picks it up like it's no thing. And she's like...
Yeah.
Okay. Side note, she really needs a better poker face. Like, you could read everything happening on that girl's face.
Yeah, and that if there's anything to gripe about with her as her performance is that she is really bad at hiding anything, and I'm not sure if that's written like that for her to be like that, or is it just the young actress's performance? Either way, I hope it gets better, because that is getting a bit frustrating to watch, because it's just too obvious. She's way too obvious that she's uncomfortable. She's way too obvious that she knows something is up, or that she's scared or worried. It's just too much. Like you said, crappy poker face. Hide that better.
Yeah.
But with Icicle, I love that little tidbit, just that little tiny bit, because we don't know about him. We don't know if his power is internal, if he has to turn it on. We saw him sleeping and he's breathing cold. Like, is he in control of it? But this kind of lets us know that he always is cold, because he's always freezing. That's why he didn't feel the power. Maybe he just he's not affected by heat. But what happens if you shake his hand? Is his hands ice cold?
Yeah, that's a good question, because he touches her on the shoulder later as they're leaving the house, and she kind of just like looks at him like, are you about to freeze me solid? This is the other scene where I was like, girl, you got to get a better poker face. I don't think it's the acting. I think it's definitely a character choice and the character direction. I think they want Courtney to be that transparent, because it becomes like pretty obvious. Now, I don't think Jordan yet has figured out like exactly who she is. She was being like really nervous and really like whatever. And I think he's just attributing it to the fact that she likes Cameron, which we know that she does, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that plays like into her favor. He's like, well, I was really here, right? And she's like, oh my God, he knows that I'm Stargirl. Like, everybody's figuring it out. And then
like, I just want my boy to be with a nice girl. So yeah.
Exactly.
And it suits her being nervous, which is fine. So she didn't lead anything on to him in that moment, which was cool.
Yeah. But I definitely think it's a character choice. I don't think it's the actress's choice, quote unquote. I think she's doing an excellent job with the character, quite honestly. Like, I love her reactions. I think they're spot on. I think they make complete sense for the way she's being written. But I definitely think that it is a written character choice that Courtney is like this transparent.
Yeah.
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 We'll
Okay.
just have to see how that goes. But I think what killed me about this whole thing is now she's suspicious of Cameron, and that just kind of like breaks my heart, because as of right now, he's completely innocent. And I want him to remain that way, and I want him to be perfect and be a part of the JSA and not be a villain, because I like him.
Yeah, poor Cameron. He's such a good, sweet, innocent guy, and I hope he can gain her trust back. I don't know how he's going to, but my question is, why wouldn't he gain her trust back? Because she so easily gives trust to Henry, to Rick. Why not Cameron? I mean, those
know.
two guys are flying off the hilt, and she's like, "Blah! I'm Stargirl, and I'm this, and I'm that, and here's everything you shouldn't know." But Cameron's this sweet, innocent guy, and she's gonna back off from him. No, he better win her over. She better come to him and be like, "You know what? You're a good kid. I can trust you too."
I hope so, as I like him, and I don't want her to be suspicious of him.
No.
I think they'd be cute together, but anyway.
Yeah, as long as they don't CW it to death, they'll be cute together.
Yeah, well, that's true. We'll see what happens in season 2.
Now, I also like the grandparents at the end as they're leaving, and they're muttering to themselves in Norwegian that they really like Barbara, but they don't like Courtney so much. I thought that was kind of funny.
It was pretty funny. I was like, oh, that's spot on. They can see right through her because she's does some poker face, totally transparent.
Now that leads to one of the biggest shocks of this episode.
Seriously.
That we did not see coming at all. This was not, I had no idea this was going to happen.
I didn't either. I had no freaking clue. As, like, you know, of course, as soon as they leave, Courtney rushes down to the basement, grabs the staff, and I don't know if she's going to go after him or expects it to, like,
what was her
pick
plan
up his
there?
scent. I don't know. It was so weird. It's like she treats it like a dog sometimes, which sometimes it kind of acts like a dog, especially in this scene. But of course, like, her and Pat are arguing, and so they don't hear Barbara coming, and she walks right up and just sees them with the cosmic staff, like, lit up. She's like, what is that? and I think what kills me more than the fact that Barbara finds out this way is that the cosmic staff literally played dead like it's a dog.
I know, it's so funny. It like stood up straight, like, oh, and it just falls over. Like it was shocked that it got caught, and then it just, you didn't see nothing. Nope.
Yeah, exactly.
It was such a great, surprising, and welcome scene. That whole thing. I know it's not a big scene, but it was so welcome because I'm so glad they aren't dragging this out any farther. It was going to get tiresome that Barbara doesn't know anything, and Pat's been trying to tell her, and Courtney's. That whole situation was going to get tiresome very soon. But man, I'm glad they did it, and it was great. Her reaction was perfect. The staff was so funny. I'm laughing even thinking about it. And they left us there because Pat's kind of like, so what are they going to tell her? Are they finally going to tell her everything?
I don't know. They're going to have to tell her at least some things. I don't know. But I'm obviously this is going to have to continue next week. So we'll see what they end up telling her. But at the very least, they're going to have to tell her about the cosmic staff, and I guess Courtney's theory that her dad was Starman, and that obviously she is Stargirl. So I feel like all of that at least has to come out.
And then maybe we find out if Barbara knew that Starman was Starman.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Because we don't know
for sure.
Yeah,
who it really was.
You know, because she's like, because if she didn't know, then she's just upset that he's always working so much. You know, he only came home once a year. Yep. But if she did know, it's a great story. Instead of being all proud and happy, yay, my husband's a superhero, she's like, no, this sucks. He's a superhero. He's never home. He's never here for the family because he's a freaking superhero. Like, that's a great different angle to take. That she's upset about the fact. So I can't wait to see which way they go with it. But I'm just happy. I'm so happy they didn't drag it out anymore. She knows now. And it didn't take them telling her. It was just a perfect little setup.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that she knows. I was not expecting her to find out this way. I figured they would either drag it out and never tell her, or that eventually Pat would spill the beans. But, I mean, they're going to have to spill the beans, but I wasn't expecting it to be because I basically caught them in the act. I mean, that sounds way dirtier than it actually was, but you know what I mean? Uh-huh. Anyways, so that was oddly probably the most shocking thing that happened this episode. But the second most shocking thing is Brainwave is alive. What?
Well, he was in a coma.
I guess. Yes.
Awake for sure. Yeah, he woke up. Henry woke up his dad because he used his power to kill that guy right there beside him in the room. And I'm just guessing that the power is what woke him up. Yeah. Holy cow. Like, that was awesome. But here's the thing with Henry Sr. He seems like he may have lost some of his memory because when he wakes up, he's not talking in his threatening, I am the boss voice. He sounded more docile and innocent, like he didn't know what was going on or what was wrong. So I'm wondering, what's the theory here? Is there some memory loss from the head trauma? Because, I mean, he got zapped by the staff pretty good. Or maybe because of waking up from a coma, maybe he just can't access his powers right now. Or could it somehow have been, which I think I saw people speculating this somewhere, that somehow the power transferred to Henry Jr.? I have no idea. Like, so what do you think? What out of those ideas, what do you think? Is it just memory loss? Can't access his powers? Did he transfer them? He doesn't even have his powers anymore. What are you thinking?
Oh, I hadn't thought about the transfer, honestly, about him not having powers at all. I had thought maybe that, he was just kind of confused, like when he woke up, and he like was truly just like trying to figure out like what is happening, where am I, why am I here, like that sort of thing. But yeah, no, that's kind of why I said like he seemed more like loving at first, but it could be because he recognized that like his son had the power. Like to me, it was because he recognized his son had the same powers. So
yeah, I don't know, because like I said, he had that higher pitched, softer voice, and he's like, Henry, what's going on? Like he just seemed completely clueless and sounded so innocent. Whereas if it was the Brainwave that we know, he would have been like, Henry, what are you doing killing someone here? Like he would have come across with that stern sound. I think something's lost. Something has changed because of the staff, whatever it did to him.
I mean, it very well could be. I don't know. I think it'll definitely be interesting to see, that's for sure. Yeah. And it may have a big influence on what Henry Jr. ultimately becomes.
Yeah.
Or not.
And I mean, it could be just an amnesia thing, Maybe it's going to take a while for him to remember, and yeah, we'll see. Or maybe Henry Jr. has to work with him to unblock his brain. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll
I mean, if Henry Jr. shows him the tapes, then he's obviously going to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll start to remember that way. I don't know.
We
awesome.
shall see.
Awesome stuff. That's a lot of good stuff this episode for sure. Oof.
It's a good one. Yeah, jam-packed. Lots
jam-packed. All right, well, let's get to our favorite scenes out of this awesome episode.
Shape out an eagle!
All right. I'm going to play my scene first, even though it comes after yours, because here's the thing. There's an advantage for you for getting to write up all the show notes. You get to pick your favorite scene first. So that when I get to the show notes, I'm like, oh, I got my favorite scene. And she picked the same one. And I have to go find another one. But it's okay because this one, it's such a good scene. I was actually going to play a much longer clip than the one that you pulled out of it, but it's such a good scene. I think it's the best scene of the entire episode, so we'll definitely use that as our overall favorite scene of this episode. I just got a little funny one, which we just finished talking about. I wanted to play the scene where Barbara sees the staff and has the best reaction, and so does the staff. So there's a little bit of sound effects in this as well, but here's that scene again.
Court? What do you think you're doing?
What if we use the staff to help prove that Jordan McCann is Icicle? Maybe he can recognize his scent. Or energy?
We're not doing anything else until we tell your mother everything.
What is that?
What the hell is that?
It's,
Caught red-handed. Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny because she's first like, what is that? And then when the staff passes out, that's when she screams, and it's just so funny.
It's so funny. I loved it.
Good one. All right, well, this scene that we both agreed on, what's the one that I think really was the best? I mean, if we could play a full 10 minutes out of this scene. It was just so good.
I know, and I don't know how much of it you chose to keep, because I honestly thought that you were going to pick the other half of the scene, because I kind of talked about, it's the hospital scene where Courtney tries to recruit Henry, and I really vibed with the first part with Henry, and I figured you would vibe with the second half with her. So did you pick the whole scene?
There's a lot of it in here, yeah.
Okay.
But it's the two of them talking in the hospital, and yeah, It's after they've been talking for a little bit, and then he starts to lose a bit of control and scares her, which I think that, you listen to the music and the heartbeat and the intensity of this scene. It's just like, it's powerful. So here it is.
You know what it's like to be able to hear everyone's thoughts. It's hell on earth. You think I'm a jerk? Well, trust me, everyone else is worse. If my dad hurt anyone, he had a reason to. People are monsters. Deep down, they're ugly and greedy and hateful and twisted. That's the truth.
Life isn't that black and white, Henry. People can be bad, but people can be good too. And kind and compassionate. Maybe some of the thoughts you read, maybe some of them are bad. I mean, sometimes we're hurting or we're afraid and we think awful, awful things. Have you tried looking a little deeper? I bet you'd find something better.
I really doubt it.
Behind the pain and the fear, it's all about love. People want to love and be loved. I think you do too.
What makes you think that?
Look where you are. Yolanda told me the way your father treats you, and you're still at his side. I don't know what it must have been like growing up with him as a father. I can't imagine what he did to you.
Get out of here.
Okay. I know deep down you want to do the right thing. Come talk to me when you're ready.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah, when he starts to lose it, boy, oh boy, that's frightening.
It is. Yeah, he's incredibly powerful, or will be soon.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into what, who is the most powerful out of the villains so far? Is it Icicle? Is it Brainwave? We don't know. Is it Dragon King? Who's the one that you should worry about the most?
I know. You kind of worry about all of them equally, but they each have different things that they are capable of. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Great scene. Great scene.
We got a whack of feedback. Let's get into feedback.
Feedback.
43 powers, activate!
And we are going to kick off this week with our friend X-Force 11. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hello, legends, and welcome to the Golden Age with Stargirl Episode 9, Brainwave. Man, oh man, we learned a lot about Brainwave in this episode, and it was pretty intriguing. It seems like father like son, that his son is headed down that road to become just like him. But what I really wanted to focus on is we get an introduction of another Golden Age team, and we may get to see them in the rest of this season or maybe next season. That's the 7 Soldiers of Victory. And the original version was Vigilante, Crimson Avenger, Green Arrow, Speedy, Shining Knight, Star-Spangled Kid, and Stripesy. So we have this group of heroes, and we already know that Shining Knight is in Blue Valley, and we will get to see more of him. And so it's going to be interesting to see if they bring back some of these characters to kind of aid and give some advice to the new JSA. Well, it seems that the secret is out about Stargirl and her family. Now 3/4 of them know. It's going to be interesting to see how Barbara reacts. Well, those are my thoughts. X-Force 11 is out.
I love when he kicks off his voicemails with, man, oh man, I know he's happy. Boy, that's your call sign, Jeff. It's hilarious. But yeah, there's all kinds of rumors about there possibly being a Green Arrow popping up, or, you know, some of these older characters from this team of 7. So we'll have to see if they do that. I'd be curious. I mean,
it would be cool, yeah.
The Shining Knight's there, so but did the rest of them survive? Are they out there? We don't know. I mean, because when I read the history of the Shining Knight, like he came through time with some other time traveling heroes and stuff. So I don't know, but yet Stripesy's there, so it's not that long ago in their history. Maybe they're all just old. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see how they describe or explain his amnesia, and then if we see any of the other heroes as well.
That might be the cliffhanger we end with. Maybe they come to the rescue at the very end. Our kids are getting their butts kicked, and the Shining Knight finally wakes up. He comes to the rescue and he grabs a couple of the other team. They come in, and that's where the episode ends. That could be a way to end the season.
Could be interesting.
Yeah. Awesome, Jeff. All right, next up, an email from Comic Geek Kev.
Hey Legends, another good episode. Being a fan of the action scenes, this episode was pretty slow, but I guess we need those here and there to really push the story. Watching what they are doing with Henry and Cameron, I'm wondering if they are going to totally turn it around at some point, making Henry JSA and Cameron ISA. No, don't say that. I want both JSA. Cameron seems too good to be true. And it's obvious his whole family is not great. Jordan seems to have a real belief in what he's doing and doesn't see himself as a bad guy. But the grandparents, they seem to be pretty just plain evil. Yeah.
Yeah, which is so funny to see.
I know. And Yolanda visiting Henry, maybe that helps push him towards repenting for what he and Cindy did. He didn't even bring that up, that Cindy appeared to be the one who spread the pics. And he looks shaken by that encounter. I'm probably totally off, but just a thought. You're not off. We thought that.
No. Yeah.
Very interested to see what happens with Barbara. I'm not sure what kind of story Pat and Courtney would be able to come up with about the staff. Seems like it's time to tell the truth, but I don't see how she will be okay with Courtney being Stargirl. Yeah, that's because she won't be. There's not a lot of episodes left to deal with that unless she just accepts it, which doesn't seem to be her personality, especially after the way she reacted when she thought Pat was just going to teach Courtney how to drive. I thought Rick saying to Pat that his letting Courtney talk to Henry was a classic anti-Pat plan seemed a little out of place this early. Unless there's been some behind-the-scenes stuff, I'm not sure the other kids know enough about Pat to make that call. Yeah, minor nitpick. Yeah. Justin is hallucinating? Is the staff calling him? Potentially.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We talked about that a little bit, but yeah, we think it's his memory issues that are coming into play for sure. The dinner scene was cool, if not uncomfortable for the characters. The hot pot, in quotations, was pretty obvious when Courtney burned herself, put on the gloves, then brought it straight to Jordan. LOL. Overall, again, good episode. I personally just like to see some more action, but maybe budgets and storytelling don't always allow for that. And there seems to be a lot that needs to be covered in the next few episodes unless there's a major cliffhanger or two in store. I give this episode 7 out of 10 bubbling pots of chicken and dumplings. Until next time, Comic Geek Kev.
I'm suddenly hungry.
I know.
Awesome, Kev. Thanks for that email, and thanks for being with us again. On to the next one is from Dreamweaver, and she says, hello, Legendaires. We got some interesting stuff in this week's episode of Stargirl. First off, in spirit with all of the Lost references you dropped in the last podcast, Henry watching his dad's tapes gave me Dharma Initiative vibes.
Yes.
I mean, finding hidden VHSs about clandestine science experiments in a secret compartment.
Right?
Exactly. Also, insane in the brain. playing during that first scene with Henry was just perfect. I love the creative music choices on this show. Yes, the soundtrack is just phenomenal.
So good.
I wonder what will become of Cindy now that she's been sufficiently grounded. Doesn't seem like she's getting out of there anytime soon. Also, the gas seemed to calm her when she was a baby. That is just seriously messed up parenting, and pretty telling when it comes to Dr. Ito's ethics, such as he doesn't seem to have any.
Was it the gas or the nap? Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't put it past him to gas a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I guess you could take it out of context. Did he mean the gas helped her when she was a baby, or did the nap help her when she was a baby? So, yeah, it's just funny. I can't help it. Maybe that's the dark side of me coming out. I just laughed at the punishment for, a kid that is so far out of line, you just can't do anything about them. Yeah, they kind of need a good backhand or two.
Yeah.
Now, I'm getting the feeling that the rest of the ISA is also fearful of Dragon King based on the meeting. They've only willfully partnered with him because they need his device for Project New America. We've seen the humanity in a lot of the other members of the ISA, but Dragon King, he seems pretty merciless.
I agree.
Side thought I had regarding Dragon King, he seems to like using dead bodies for his experiments, like when he asked for the wizard's body. We don't entirely know much about what happened after Pat fled from the original JSA's last stand with the dying Starman. What if Dragon King took all of the fallen JSA members' bodies and used them for experiments or as the drones? Imagine a fight against zombified members of the original JSA. Now that would be creepy. Whoa.
Mind blown.
That's a mind-blowing idea. Yeah, because did anyone go back and clean up all the dead bodies? Did we have funerals for each member? We have no idea.
I don't know. Whoa. I was right there with you on Wizard, but now that you brought in the fact that it could be all of the rest of the JSA, ugh, creepy.
Can you imagine? Yeah. Whoa, wow. Then look who came to dinner. That Nordic prayer to the ancestors of Nilfheim was a bit unsettling. But if you pray to Nilfheim, then it's no wonder you have ice powers. I wonder if Jordan knows Loki. Courtney has no poker face. Yeah. Once she correctly assumes Jordan is Icicle, she has no idea how to play it cool. After they leave, she even goes to the staff in order to track him down. But hey, at least now Barbara is going to get some truth. After the lying game Pat and Courtney have been playing with her, I figured the only way she would find out would be either walk in on something JSA related, such as at the end of this episode, or Jordan would end up revealing the secret.
Yes.
Exactly. And I guess they've been listening to the questions we've had about the tunnels because they gave us an answer. Yes, there is a network of tunnels that connect all over the town. Thank you, writers, for clearing that up. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I'm glad she brings that up because they did totally just say, it, yeah. There's tunnels everywhere under the town. It's a network. Awesome. I'm really interested to see Henry's story arc / place in all of this. He seems to really be at a crossroads. What the learning about his abilities and his dad's secret history, and now wrestling with whether or not humanity is good or not, now that he can hear thoughts. Courtney made a pretty strong speech to him, but he's in a lot of conflict because of his complicated relationship with his dad. Yolanda's visit was also interesting, and you could see he still does care for her despite what happened between the two of them. Mm-hmm. He's definitely got an interesting road ahead now that Dragon King knows he can power the machine. Yeah, I feel for Henry. The being torn between what's right and what's the better way is crazy.
Yep.
Poor kid. And that very end scene with the lawyer, talk about a bookend. Him accidentally killing the lawyer just like his dad killed the mugger in the opening flashback scene. He's definitely going to be dealing with some questions of morality from here on. Both his own and humanity's as a whole. And now his dad's awake too. I really enjoyed this episode. The character dynamics and shifting loyalties are being set up really well for when Project New America finally comes front and center in the story. I'm giving this 9 foreboding Nordic prayers out of 10. Looking forward to the next episode. Till next time, your friend Dreamweaver.
Love it.
Very entertaining email, Dreamweaver. Thank you so much for that. Next up is Carrie Johnson.
So to start, I give this episode 9.5 servings of Pat's famous chicken and dumplings out of 10. I mean, it had my 2 favorite villains front and center with Brainwave and Icicle. It included his creepy Norwegian parents. We got 2 awesome WTF moments with Barbara seeing Court and Pat with the staff and Brainwave waking up. That's a whole lot of goodness in one episode. So let's get to it. Yeah, I agree. What I really appreciated about this episode was the conversation that Brainwave Jr. had with Courtney in the hospital room. What particularly intrigued me is Brainwave Jr.'s ability to read people's minds only surface level. By that, I mean, is he only able to get insight into people's most initial thoughts and feelings, such as their anger, fear, and deception? Or is there an ability to go further into a person's mind and gain insight into things such as their capacity for love, compassion, and good? I mean, it's easy to believe that most people at their base level can be evil and mean. And honestly, based on what we're seeing in society right now, it's hard not to see past people's anger and obstinate at times. Yes. I literally tweeted that when I was watching this episode. Not in those exact words. But I thought it was really important that Courtney asked Brainwave Jr. if he had tried to look a little deeper. Yes. I think whether or not Brainwave Jr. decides to look a bit further into people's thoughts and feelings will play a major role in whether he sides with his dad or fights for justice. I'm kind of excited about seeing where he ends up.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel too. That was what was so intriguing about this episode, is which way is Henry going to go? And did Courtney say enough that he's going to contemplate it, and instead of reacting to the surface feelings, dig a little deeper to see what people really are thinking?
Exactly. All right, he continues. The highlight of the episode, though, was the McKent family coming to dinner. Pardon the pun, but that Norwegian family is cold, man. That prayer is twisted. Lay power in this food and us so that our enemies might suffer. Yep. Yeah. Also, the show played the does he know moment between Icicle and Courtney more like I thought they were going to play it between Cindy and Courtney the week before. Then I thought about it more, and I have determined that the way it was played both times totally fits the characters. Cindy is impulsive and erratic and takes every moment as an opportunity to show dominance. So even though she danced around the revelation for a bit while in Courtney's room, it makes absolute sense that her character would tell Courtney that she knows she's Stargirl. Jordan, meanwhile, is more, pardon the pun, icy and calculating.
Puns are fully approved.
Fully appreciated as well. So at the end of the night, when he says to Courtney, "You do know why I was really here, don't you?" His tone and approach screamed to the audience that he was going to reveal that he knew Courtney's secret. His approach was chilling, and you could see Courtney backing away in fear. It was a moment well played by both actors. Then, after a pause, he cuts the tension by saying he had to meet the girl whom his son had been talking about. It was a great moment, and you're still left wondering, does he know or not? Is he playing her? That's the question.
Yes, good question.
Finally, Barbara sees Courtney and Pat with the staff. To me, it felt like the WTF moment at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming when Aunt May walked in on Peter in the Spidey suit. Yes. I can't wait to see how the family deals with this revelation next week. Personally, I believe this deception is a deal breaker, so it'll be interesting to see how it's resolved. Between Barbara seeing the staff and Brainwave waking up in the hospital, those were two awesome WTF moments in one episode.
Yes.
I completely agree. Stray observations. In the pilot, I didn't think too much about what all the green lighting inside the mansion meant. But then we see those same green lights used on the mice that Brainwave is working with in his lab in the flashback. I'm certain there's a connection, just not sure what it is.
Oh, yeah. Interesting observation.
Even though angry Rick can grate just a bit, it was nice to see he and Beth get to Scooby-Doo the tunnels mystery.
Yeah, they were a very minor part of this episode. I actually already forgot about them.
Very minor part. I don't even think we talked about them.
No.
And based on what they found, it makes a whole lot of sense why the Injustice Society would be drawn to Blue Valley to hatch their scheme. Indeed, secret tunnels by the, quote, other founding fathers. Above ground, they get to be the pillars of the community. All the while, they get to slink in the tunnels to plot their evil schemes. Yes.
Pretty good combo if you're a bad guy.
Yep. Neil Jackson is acting the hell out of playing Icicle, even in the small, nuanced moments. When Mike grabbed the last bit of chicken and dumplings on the table, the disapproving look he gave to Mike for being a terrible host, and then the look he gave Pat for letting Mike basically get away with it, was telling.
Yes. So good. He is just amazing.
I know. I really like this actor.
Awesome, Carrie. Good stuff as always. Next up is a voicemail from Patty Spivot.
Hey, Flash and Harley, it's Lisa calling in. So this was a fun episode. I think it was a little bit less intense overall than the last two-parter about Shiv. The funniest part for me, I thought the family dinner scene was so awkward. It was quite funny. I think they could have done a little more with it. But it sort of set up this nice little stage for when Barbara caught them with the staff in the basement. So if she's not too mad once they explain everything, which I assume they will, I was thinking maybe she could help them spy on Jordan or spy on the ISA. I think that might be kind of a fun little twist. And it'll give the mom maybe some more to do in this whole show, because she's kind of been just in scenes here and there. I really think there's more to the story with Henry and Yolanda. She has so much rage and anger in her towards him. And there's been a couple of scenes now where I feel like he just has more to say, but he can't seem to get it out. So I really suspect that Cindy was behind the photos and Henry was just a pawn. But I guess it remains to be seen. But if that is the case, it might help Yolanda sort of heal and find some forgiveness, because she's just hurting and it's really hard to watch. I was thinking too about all the characters so far. I don't really like Rick yet. I don't really like Henry, even though they're trying to show us what he's going through and how hard it is for him. Like, Cindy was such a compelling villain immediately, and her layers were so interesting. And, you know, some of the other female characters have, I don't know if it's because I'm a girl, maybe, I really relate more to their storylines so far, but I just was thinking about it and I found it kind of interesting that so far, except for Pat, I quite like Pat, and Jordan's kind of interesting with all of his layers, but so far the girls seem to be a lot more compelling with the story, and that might just be the flavor of what they're doing with the whole show of Stargirl, is making these strong female characters. Anyways, that was just a couple of thoughts that I had, and I'm looking forward to the podcast, so we'll talk to you guys later.
Well, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of the first time she's out in a different field with her feelings about the characters than we're at.
Yeah, a little bit.
But
I agreed with a lot of what she said, but yeah.
I like the point all the way in the beginning though, about Barbara. She's right. That actress really has nothing to do on the show. She comes in for bit parts here and there, a few seconds.
Which is shocking considering who she is.
Yeah, she's got nothing to do. So that's a very good theory that we could probably track and see if she's right. Maybe once she finds out her family is doing this and that the man she's working for is a bad guy and she believes them, maybe she could be a spy because he obviously trusts her, so she could play that up totally and get some info. That'd be interesting to see if they go in that direction with her, because she does need more to do. She comes in for a few seconds. Hey, how's it going, guys? She's out of the scene. Okay. It's pretty quick.
Exactly. Considering that it's Amy Smart. Yeah. I'm shocked with as little screen time as she's had.
Maybe she got more coming. I guess we'll have to see.
I hope so. She's a fantastic actress, so I really hope so. And she's a big name, so that's why I've been so shocked that we haven't seen that much of her, really.
But I don't know. I mean, to me, Henry Jr. is intriguing as hell after this episode, and and what's happening with his dad and Icicle. Jordan's just fascinating, and he's the best villain we've had in a long, long time. So
I love him. I do.
Actor. Awesome stuff. All right. Email from Bianca is next. Hey, Flash and Harley. Here's my feedback for episode 9, Brainwave. I really enjoyed the backstory for Brainwave. It appears that he's had that evil in him the whole time. It was just buried. So as we found out, His own father was very strict and even cruel. Unless you make a conscious effort to break the cycle, you're more likely to treat your own children the same. It's very apparent that this is the case with Henry Jr. I also enjoyed seeing Jr. discover his dad's history, but that he also used the tapes as inspiration for testing out his powers. It was a nice progression for Jr. What wasn't so great, all the conclusions he jumped to when reading the minds of people around him.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cindy was put in timeout this week. That was enjoyable to watch. I'm not the only one that enjoys those kind of things. Way to go. Awesome, Bianca. Seeing Pat tell Rick that there's more to being a hero than punching things, and then leave him and Beth to do some digging for info on the ISA tunnels. While the ISA didn't make the tunnel network themselves, I guessed correctly that it was all over the town. I guess those Freemasons had a lot of time on their hands. Barbara taking pity on Jordan and inviting his entire family to dinner. Whoa. Didn't really see that coming. It led to a great revelation for Courtney and Pat, though, on Icicle's true identity. Yes. Yolanda, what a temper. I'm glad she didn't let it get the best of her again. She needs to talk to someone about this before she ends up killing someone accidentally.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's struggling. You can tell she's been holding this rage in for a long time, and now she's got a way to express it, and that's not good.
Yeah.
The last scene where Junior kills the lawyer and then Brainwave wakes up. I'm not quite sure he's his normal self. He didn't sound like his normal self. I wonder if he's lost his powers. Yes, Bianca's on my wavelength. See? He's off. There's something off with him there for sure. My rating for this week, 7.5 gas naps. Only 4 more episodes. See you next week, Bianca.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, we're down to 4. Down to 4. Well, let's, yeah. It's freaky. But thank you, everybody, for your awesome feedback. The rest of you, I mean, you guys know what to do. But if there's new listeners joining us, this is how you send in feedback.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with 1 R. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends, also with 1 R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
Yes. 4 episodes left. Ooh. A lot to do and a lot can happen.
Yes. I think it's moving way faster than I expected it to, which is a good thing. I'm glad they're not dragging things out and kind of leaving us hanging. So, yeah, a lot can happen in 4 episodes.
That's true. Yeah, and I mean, we've seen on these shows a lot does happen sometimes in 1 episode. So as long as they don't try to fit too much in and make it a mess, that's good. And as long as they don't stretch out the last 4 and not a lot happens until the last episode and then they cram a bunch in for the finale, I don't know. I trust them because it's been so good so far. I think they know what they're doing. And now that they got announced, they got a 2nd season picked up, but I'm sure they had a good feeling about it and they probably have written us a pretty good ending for this season.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty fun stuff, but I'm enjoying it. It is definitely, it's fast becoming the best show in this DC universe on the CW, I think, for sure.
It's a great one.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for being with us. Got a week off again. This is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn, and I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.